star that lights the road. I take this ride. Just drive. I wanna be the only one to make it to the light. I take it to the edge where I live 1,000 lives. Maybe I could be the one. I'll ride to the setting sun tonight. Just drive. Pictures and things that I've done before, circling around me. I'm here on the floor. I'm dreaming this and I'm dreaming that, regretting nothing. Think about that. Waves breaking forms on my horizons. Yeah, I'm shining. I'm seeing waves breaking forms on my horizons. Lord, I'm shining. Are you hearing me like I'm hearing you? Did I pass the essence test? 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 Did I pass the essence test?
It's the start of a new era in Formula One. For the first time ever, live testing. It's also the first time cars have been broadcast in 3D. A totally new way of immersing yourself in the action. We're in Barcelona for the third and final test with live coverage from the afternoon sessions for all 4 days. Yes, hello everybody. Just over 2 weeks until the start of the new Formula One season. We can't wait to get to Melbourne. In the meantime, though, to whet your appetite for the first time ever, live coverage of testing here from a rather dark and dreary, it has to be said, Barcelona. When we came here last year, it was 20 degrees. Not so today. It must be 5 degrees maximum. The big news, though, from the paddock this morning, in the last hour, the driver lineup for 2013 has been completed. Would it be Jules Bianchi? Would it be Adrian Sutil for Force India? I'm delighted to say that it's Adrian Sutil returning to his old team. Fantastic news for you, Adrian. You must be delighted to be back in Formula One.
Yes, absolutely. It's a very nice day, a very special day. Was hoping for that to really have a comeback in Formula One. And yeah, actually quite nice to do it with Sahara Force India. So yeah, have to thank them to give me that opportunity to race. So it's just 2 more days of testing and then straight into the race. So not so much time.
Not too much to ask of their new driver. Just you've had 1 day's testing so far, ran around about 80 laps. Has it been a bit of a twitchy week for you? Because we know it's between yourself and Jules Bianchi. I mean, what do you think swung it in your favour?
Yeah, of course, it was an exciting week, but still I was quite comfortable, quite relaxed, and I was just ready for both sides. If it happened, very happy. If not, okay, well, then I have to go somewhere else. But it was a dream. It was really, I never gave up that thinking to come back into Formula One. I knew I could still have a good future here, and now it's the first step. And of course it was a hard fight. A lot of guys wanted the last seat here, and I don't really know why they took me, but I think they know me very good.
Your experience that counted for something.
Yes, of course, I have experience, and also experience without a year without the Formula One, which is also quite good. But I think the team just know me very well, and I'm glad they rate my qualities very high. So that's why I got the seat.
Adrian, congratulations. We're going to hear from you a little bit later in commentary. If you want to ask any questions, pose any questions to Force India's new driver, or should I say returning driver, you can do so. #SkyF1. As always, David Croft up in commentary along with Johnny Herbert and a variety of guests as well to keep you entertained today. Now, as we know, 22 drivers on the grid, but just 11 in action today. Let's just run you through them then. Mark Webber in the Red Bull. Felipe Massa in the Ferrari. Sergio Perez was quickest here last week, and the confident young Mexican will test today and Saturday. All the top three from last year flip-flopping their drivers. Romain Grosjean in the Lotus today and tomorrow, though. Kimi steps in at the weekend. Lewis Hamilton, one of three Brits out there today. He was quickest this morning for what it was worth. Esteban Gutierrez, Sauber's new boy, gets things started for the Swiss team. So Paul di Resta was waiting for his teammate to be announced. That's all over now. Rumour mill was favouring Sutton, it has to be said today, and that was confirmed. Williams' exciting pairing this year, reserve driver from last year, Bottas, steps in for Senna's seat. He goes today and tomorrow. Maldonado in the weekend. It's Jean-Luc Vernet, the Toro Rosso, Charles Pic for his new team, Caterham, and the third bit, Max Chilton, putting in the laps for Marisha. Ted's alongside me. Hello, Ted.
Hello, Simon.
Warm, wasn't it, last time we were here? Well, last time I was here, which was last year. But you've been at all the testing days so far this year. What have you taken from it?
Well, this is pretty much the temperature it was at the last day I was here, which was at the end of the second test. So nothing seems to have changed at the moment. I've just come in from the pit lane, and we're right on the cusp now between full wet tyres and intermediate. So there's still plenty that the teams can learn. Very frustrating for them that we've got such a wet day. I'd be surprised if a dry line emerges towards the end of the day. But having said that, it hasn't rained for about 45 minutes to an hour, has it? And we've got sunshine behind us and starting to glint off the car's bodywork. So it's only now starting to be proper running conditions where they can understand some things about new developments, and they might start putting on one or two little developments today, but we're going to have to wait until the final 2 days of this test, Saturday and Sunday, before we see the big packages come, and teams will be running effectively what they will run in Melbourne. Yeah, the forecast was for more rain tomorrow and then the weekend to get slightly better. So, I mean, a lot of the concentration, as you say, always goes in there. There'll be sandbagging a lot of these teams, won't there, until it comes to the last couple of days? Well, they'll be running heavy fuel, which I think is what most of them have been doing for the whole test so far. And it's so difficult to tell, actually, who's looking good and who isn't, because on the face of it, you might say Red Bull haven't been doing some such brilliant times, but I've been watching them in the pit lane. Whenever they come back into the pit lane, the fuel hose goes on and they fill it back up with petrol. So, you know, they are running heavy fuel. I think we'll only see really how fast everybody is in qualifying in Melbourne, but this test will give us maybe a sort of 75% impression of where everybody is heading to the first race.
Okay, well, Ted and I are going to beaver away and try and bring you some interviews throughout the course of the afternoon. Just a reminder again, this is the only place you can see every session live this season. In 2013, Sky F1 is the place to be. But in the meantime, if you've got a 3D telly, get those specs on, because I can assure you it is well worth it. He's itching to get going. I know he's dying to get talking to you as well. Get your views coming in. First stint, Johnny Herbert is alongside David Croft.
Thank you, Simon. Good afternoon, everyone. How good is this? Live testing for the first time on television. We're covering the testing action, and we're here in Barcelona. Could be warmer, could be drier. The track could have a few more cars on it at the moment, but at least we're here, and at least we're going to give you all the action as it happens. And we have been watching the skies a lot in the last few hours. Ambient temperature is only 9 degrees here at the Circuit de Catalunya at the moment. The clouds are coming in from Bill's mothers or Juan's mothers or wherever they come from in this part of Spain, and they've been rolling in all day. But the track is dry enough for intermediate tyres. It's just how long those tyres are going to last. Because although we haven't seen a dry line appearing, and we have seen a few runs from the drivers since the lunch break, I can't see the intermediates lasting more than 10 or so laps in these conditions. Look how dry it is going in to the first turn with Romain Grosjean, who was a man for whom the morning wasn't without incidents. Johnny Herbert is alongside me. He's sporting the 3D glasses, looks a bit like Joe 90 this afternoon. How are you, Johnny?
I'm doing very good, and it's nice to see you in all your 3D wonderfulness.
Yeah, you don't need glasses for that.
I've taken them off now.
What we've seen so far, Johnny, was Romain Grosjean, a little bit twitchy there. It's drier in places, shall we say, for the 2011 GP2 champion, returning for a second full season with this team. But it's still quite treacherous when you want to put your foot down, especially through turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, exactly. And Roman has sort of been doing this all day long. He's actually been really flicking the back end of that Lotus out all the time. This is sort of the damper side, a little bit of spray there off of the wheels. But actually in front of us in commentary, the start-finishing line, it looks relatively dry. And this is typical of this circuit because of the undulations and the way that the water sort of dissipates off of the circuit in different places.
We'll talk tyres a little bit a little bit later on, I should say, with Paul Hembry, the Director of Motorsports at Pirelli. He's going to join us in the commentary box, as is Adrian Soutel, as Simon mentioned at the top of the show. Graham Loudon, the Sporting Director and President of Marussia, will also be joining us. And we also have Guido van der Gaard coming up, the race driver this year in his first full season with the Caterham team, and one other special guest with us throughout the entire 4 days. We have our tame racing driver in Johnny Herbert, so we kind of need a tame mechanic as well, a man who understands what it's like to be in the garage and who has been to more tests than I've had hot dinners, and that is quite something, I can tell you. Mark Priestley, former #1 mechanic at McLaren, was with the team for 9 years. Good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, chaps. It's an absolute pleasure to be sat here alongside you, and let's hope that as we see a glimpse of sunshine out the window, we get a bit more of that, a bit more of action on track today.
I dare say you're only saying it's nice to be with us because we've got a nice heated commentary box. If you were still with McLaren, you'd be down in the garage shivering your wing nuts and grommets off. Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, you're spot on.
It's horrible conditions for the teams, though. They want to get out and do a lot of running, but just how much can you learn, even by running around on intermediates in these sort of temperatures?
Well, what we're seeing right now on track is that as you mentioned, that's that difficult period where, you know, it's between inters and before we get to the point where we can fit dries. And now for the teams, from the team's perspective, it's very little in terms of car performance they're going to learn here. However, what they can do and what they will be doing over the course of this week is putting mileage onto lots of new parts that they're going to be arriving over the course of the 4 days. And being the last test before these guys head off to Australia, there's just no way that these teams can sit in the garage and not turn a wheel this week. So I think we are going to see plenty of action over the course of the 4 days.
And from a driver's perspective, Johnny, they're not heated, these cockpits, by any margin. I'm sure these are the days you least look forward to when you were testing.
Well, they're sort of frustrated, probably more for the engineers, to be honest, than us as drivers. But we've sort of got our own little warming system in there, which is actually working the wheel of that car. So that does keep us warm enough. But it is very, very nice because we can get it in Melbourne, this wet weather. And you do remember in Malaysia, we had it there as well. Yeah. So this will still be an important part of testing.
Certainly will. When the rain does come in Malaysia, because the rain always comes in Malaysia, it comes an awful lot warmer than we're seeing here. But we're going to Spa again this year. We're going to the Nürburgring again this year. These could be the conditions that the drivers face at the Nürburgring, but that's a long way into the season, as Romain Grosjean halfway into his current lap, and on his way now down towards the heavy braking zone at turn 10.
You can already see him moving off the line with his tyres. Actually, as he went into the braking zone there into turn 9, he was actually offline trying to cool the tyres down. So already these intermediate tyres are starting to get punished and start to slide around, as he seems to be doing more or less every single exit or corner he gets.
41st lap of the day for Romain Grosjean. Not all of them timed earlier on. A few were just coming in for an out lap and a few systems checks. And is he going to pit here? He is. That's 41 and back into the pits for the Lotus driver. And that sky is getting a touch darker in the background. We see a few flags waving from the main stand as well. One of which is welcoming Robert Kubica back to motorsport action. Another saying that Pedro de la Rosa, we're with you all the way. Man who had... of course, a bit of time with the Ferrari team. Let's bring you up to date with the story of the day so far, as we were covering the action this morning in bright and early at just past 9 o'clock. Spanish time. Out went Charles Pic in the Caterham onto the wet weather tyres. It had been pouring just before the cars took to the track. Romain Grosjean was out there early on as well, locking up his tyres going into the chicane. And Grosjean going off as well, even before he completed a flying lap. He'd found the gravel, and that was the first red flag of the day after only 10 minutes of running. Long walk back to the pits for the French driver as Mark Webber looked on. He's on driving duty for Red Bull today. More on Mark Webber in a few moments. Back to Charles Pic, out of turn 10, spinning around. And Lewis Hamilton on duty for Mercedes today, going through the chicane to end another lap. Felipe Massa was another one who found his way off into the gravel. Hamilton working hard behind the wheel of that Mercedes, but looking fairly comfortable. Set the fastest time of the morning as well, did Lewis Hamilton, of a 1:41.2. The rain came down just before the lunch break. Esteban Gutierrez going off at turn 3 before the end of the session, and his car being recovered by the marshals. And just as we came on air this afternoon, Mark Webber took to the track once more. He'd been going very quick during the rain, and as the track dried, he put in a time of 1:40.15, which is the fastest time we've had so far today, as we watch Sergio Perez live out on the track at the moment in the McLaren. Gonna have to get used to this, Johnny. Yellow helmet in the McLaren is not Lewis Hamilton anymore. It is Sergio Perez. And Perez with a 1:43.7, McLaren not up there with the times today. We'll talk a bit more about his earlier exploits in a moment, but Mark Webber with a 1:40.1. He did look quick in the heavier rain conditions, and then out in the Red Bull just after the lunch break, just as we came on air, pops up with the fastest time.
Yeah, well, everyone's been talking about this Red Bull, that they've sort of been sandbagging and not really showing everything. I think that showed that the speed that it's got and the grip, probably more importantly, that car still produces. That's something that Red Bull seem to be very good at, getting a car that has got good traction. That's what the racing in the rain or testing in the rain is all about, and that again shows that grip at the rear end is very good on that car. So we'll have to see if that pays dividends when it actually goes dry.
Let's try and put that Mark Webber lap time into context, though. The 1:40.1 was his first flying lap of what turned into a 4-lap run. 1:41.3 and a 1:51.3 were the other time laps as part of that run. So it was a very short take to the track. So you do have to wonder just how little fuel might have been on board compared to what the other guys were running. Back to Sergio Perez for a moment. At 23 years of age, he gets the promotion then to the McLaren seat. And we were watching him quite closely this morning, weren't we, Johnny? And he seemed to just be struggling in what were, it has to be said, very tricky conditions. And he ended up going off into the gravel himself at quite low speed.
Yeah, he's one of those drivers generally that if you sort of look how his work rate is actually in the car. He's quite a fighter and quite aggressive with the steering. Now that's something in many regards in his modern day Formula Ones you don't want to have. You want someone who's very, very smooth, very precise, and that's something that we do see in the race, to be perfectly honest. What we haven't seen yet, we're going to have to see if that he comes of age this year, is obviously his qualifying, where it will probably be that little bit more important to take away that fighting input that he gets through the steering, because he needs to be smooth to produce the goods in qualifying itself.
Mark Priestley, if I can bring you in on this as well, what sort of a team does Sergio Perez come into? You were with the McLaren team for 9 years. How different is it to being at Sauber?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for the Sauber guys, obviously, but at McLaren, what he's coming into is a team that, you know, really does work to the very, very highest of standards, and you know, they're professional to the utmost limit, and I think what he'll get absolutely everything that he needs, most importantly. So whatever he requires as a driver, however he needs to be fitted into that car to make him comfortable, he'll have every single opportunity to make that to make that happen. You know, they won't. Obviously, they've got plenty of money, they've got plenty of resources, and you know, if he needs the steering wheel moving up in the cockpit, moving down in the cockpit, moving slightly further away, they won't be shy to make him a new steering column to make that happen for him. Where perhaps at the smaller teams, you don't quite get the flexibility of that sort of thing to fit you into the car.
Valtteri Bottas, just to break off, has just gone second fastest with a 1:40.2 in the Williams that we haven't seen a huge amount of today, and of course running their new car in only the second and third test. But we caught up with Sergio Perez Tuesday, I think it was, of this week, and a feature that you'd be able to see as part of the Australian Grand Prix coverage on Sky Sports F1 HD. And we asked him about his time at McLaren, and you know, he certainly wasn't a man expecting it all to be plain sailing.
We obviously have problems like anyone else out there.
but I think we're getting there, and the team is doing a good job. We have had some difficulties so far with the car, to understand the car and also the setup. But I think we'll get there, and I'm confident for the start of the season. Obviously, there are 2 very important days coming up.
Which they are, which have been curtailed a bit this morning by the rain, of course, and sharing the 4 days with Jenson Button. But he's never a man that is short of confidence, but maybe a little bit more reserved now that he knows he's made the step up to the big time.
Yeah, well, again, you know, when I was at Sauber back in 96 to 98, the biggest difference with them is they're very supportive of their drivers, Peter Sauber, to do the job, and that's something that is very, very different, and is going to be quite a bit tougher for him.
Yeah, absolutely, and as I was saying there, in terms of the team accommodating him in terms of fitting him into the car, that sort of thing, they're going to wipe away any excuses. You know, he's going to get everything he wants, and then it's over to him. Then it really is down to him to deliver the goods.
Delivering the goods at the moment on the track is Valtteri Bottas, who seems to be on a bit of a flyer for Williams. We're watching Sergio Perez as he accelerates now to, well, a straight that normally sees about 170, 175 miles an hour in the dry. You can probably scrub off 15 miles an hour at least in these sort of conditions. And there his former team, the Sauber team, Esteban Gutierrez, just behind him. You can see quite illustrated there the difference between a McLaren car in terms of downforce and a Sauber car in terms of downforce, just exiting that turn 10. But Ted, you want to come in on this conversation at the moment?
Well, indeed, David, I thought that was an interesting comment that Sergio made about the McLaren, how they still have work to do. And Jenson Button, his teammate, saying exactly the same thing, that the car is just unpredictable and slightly inconsistent. They know that they can do a brilliant lap time when they want to, and all the conditions are perfect, but then on a race run the speed sort of goes away. So it's strange, the performance of the McLaren. So I guess this wet weather is as frustrating for McLaren as it is for anybody today. Just to update you on what Sergio, just go out, just get to know how the car behaves on the intermediate tyres, do as many laps as you want. He's not running to a set number of laps, or so the pit board says. Felipe Massa, who is running to a set number of laps because he's doing a race simulation, looks like he's getting ready for a pit stop very soon. That's Mark Webber coming out just in the background, you can hear. So we'll see what the Red Bull is going to do now. And just a quick word finally on track conditions. Just check with one of the Pirelli guys, 10 degrees track temperature. That is difficult to learn much about these tyres, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a blessing though, Ted. It's gone up a degree in the past 5 minutes. You know, count your blessings as they come. Sergio Perez, by the way, you're right, Ted, we've no idea how long his run is. I would envisage, Johnny, it's not going to be the longest run we've seen today, because he's just set his fastest time of a 1:42.2 on his 3rd time lap of this particular run. Yeah,
well, I think Ted is absolutely right. This is what the drivers and the engineers want. They want this data to see how these tyres are. One thing for you guys who haven't watched testing before, obviously with a slight rule change with the DRS in free practice, you can't use it. What you see in here as well is they're not using it very often as well. I think Sergio used it on the main straight last time around. I think it's down at the moment, so he seems to be using it just down the main straight. So these will come into play as well, and of course that makes a big difference on lap time as well.
So that's not a race simulation if he's using that down the main straight, unless he's simulating an overtaking move, and that will be the DRS zone here in Barcelona. Remember, of course, no free use of DRS during the course of 2013, one of the few regulation changes. We've got a clock on Valtteri Bottas, who's the fastest man out on the track at the moment, as Max Chilton now comes out of the garage for Marussia, and there is Bottas with a 1:39.8, so he's the only man actually to dip under the 140s so far today. And just to let you know, that's about 18 seconds off the pace that we saw Sergio Perez notch up for the fastest time of the second test.
Yeah, well, I think that's not a surprise, obviously, with the conditions we have. But I think with Bottas himself, he probably has some fresher tyres than the other guys that are out there who have done more laps than they have. Of course, they're fresher, they give more grip, you go faster. So this is where typically, I can remember these days, in qualifying in Spa, with this sort of damp conditions drying out last lap, this is what we've got here at testing. But, you know, they're out there still testing other things as well with tyres. There'll be other little data things that they'll be logging.
And Bottas there just struggling for a bit of grip. going up the hill. I'm seeing more and more a dry line appearing here, and more drivers actually having to go offline slightly to keep those tyres a little bit cooler.
Yeah, well, the general thing around this track is actually the racing line in these conditions isn't the real racing line. You actually go offline. So as this track actually gets drier, you'll start to see the drivers feed it back there, and then it goes offline, round the outside. That's where the grip is. Then it sort of sweep back in. But as the track dries and changes, they'll be getting more and more towards the dry racing line, and of course that's when you know that the speed of the track itself is actually coming to them.
I was talking to a couple of guys during the lunch break down at Williams, and they said, look, you know, we're not learning a huge amount just yet. You know, remember, we didn't have the new car, the FW35, until the second test, but, you know, it's behaving itself so far, and that's one of the plus points for them, especially, Mark, when you launch a car and you bring a car to testing, 3 winter tests only, a little bit later than everyone else, you want it to behave itself. You don't want major issues.
No, absolutely, and you know what we see these days, of course, in Formula One, with the restricted amount of testing the teams are able to do, those 3 tests are absolutely crucial. In days gone by, you could have been testing since November with a new car, and of course by this point, you know, it's no longer a new car. But these guys have made the most of the last test. They'll make the most of the rest of this test. Although today's been slightly disrupted, they have been able to learn things, as we said. I think the only point where they're not going to really learn anything is when it's so wet that it's full wet conditions, where in a race scenario that's probably going to be running behind a safety car. But everything else, they're going to be able to learn stuff.
And I think that's why Ferrari have put Felipe Massa out now, or about half an hour ago, for this race simulation, because it might get a bit wetter later, and there is rain in the air, and it's skirting the circuit at the moment. Massa is on his 24th lap of this current run.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is for the teams here, where the teams back in the garages that are watching this on their monitors as we are, you know, they will be watching through sort of hands over faces, through the gaps in their fingers, because when it's like this and there's a dry line starting to appear but not quite, they're running around in new machinery. They've got hardly any spare parts with them because it's so new, and they're about to head off to Australia in a week's time. Now, they cannot afford a big accident here. Nobody can.
And Fernando Alonso waiting to use that car when he appears for his testing duration. I'm just looking at what the schedule is for Ferrari. It's Fernando tomorrow, Felipe on Saturday, and it's Fernando on Sunday. So they alternate days there. I think he's coming in for a pit stop. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Felipe Massa isn't coming in. Mark Webber back out on track again. Johnny, give me your impressions in terms of analysis, not actual sound and engine noises, of the Red Bull as it goes around.
Well, as I said before, it looks a car that is very happy with its rear end, and the drivers seem to be able to feel that. That's one thing that comes into play in the wet, but it also comes into effect when it's dry as well, because it seems to be when it's drier, a lot of the teams, McLaren seems to be one of those talking about a lot, get a lot of understeer, grains the front tyre, and it's very hard to get back. From what I've seen, it seems as if the Red Bull, they can actually have a loose back, which is much easier to control and much easier to look after the tyres. So they seem to have sort of shifted their direction into a car that is more nose happy in some regard, making it a bit loose at the back so they can drive the car. But when you watch it now, this is the sort of damp part of the track. The left hand, this sort of goes up a nice hill, which then goes into turn 8 at the top there, where it just seems very secure, very balanced. Yes, I know the track is changing, but considering that, this is where the tyres effectively are overheating, but the car still seems to be able to use the grip.
Incredible, isn't it? Mark Webber, oldest man on the grid at 36 for this year. Go back to 1996 when he was winning in Formula Ford. That's back in your days, Johnny. It was that long ago.
No, it wasn't. I'm an 80s boy. It's further back.
I was trying to be complimentary.
I know, it didn't work.
No, it didn't, did it? You didn't believe a word of it. Big season for Mark Webber coming up, though.
Yes, it is. You know, we saw you know, how strong Mark can be. We saw the championship that he nearly had a couple of years ago, but at the end of the day, he's got a good opportunity.
Loads of your tweets coming in, and I'll try and rattle a few of them for you. We've got Guido van der Garde coming up for Caterham. Get your questions into him. Hashtag SkyF1. I'm glad you're all loving the coverage that we're bringing you here. Daniel Perkins says, can we read anything into these wet testing times? We can't read as much as we'd like, but we're trying to decipher who's quick and who's not. Welcome back then to our coverage on Sky Sports F1 HD and Sky 3D of this final test here in Barcelona. Only 3 tests during the winter and plenty to do. And out on track at the moment you can see Charles Pic in the Caterham, who has been doing, it has to be said, a lot of laps today. This is his 54th that he's just completed. Not many of those time laps, to be fair. Only about 16 or 17 time laps. So we ought to ask what's going on with the catering team and what their programme is, and who better than Charles' teammate, Guido van der Garde. First of all, congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
And second of all, welcome to our nice warm commentary box.
No, it is very warm, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, we're happy you're here as well. Why has Charles Pic not done so many time laps today? What's the programme been?
Well, I think not a lot of people have been doing a lot of laps. It was a bit crazy weather this morning. It was raining, drying up, raining again. And so far the track is drying now, so hopefully we'll have some drying running on the end.
It's kind of a tricky situation as to how many laps you do at the moment. If you've got a few sets of intermediate tyres just to burn off, it's not a problem. If you're trying to save the tyres for the rest of the weekend, it might be, because we're at that transition phase, aren't we?
Yeah, with the test we don't get too many intermediates or wet tyres. So we have to take care a bit, and it looks like tomorrow's raining as well, so we have to keep some.
You in the car tomorrow then?
Yes.
Looking forward to that?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, it's a pleasure to be with Caterham this year. I'm very happy, and I'm looking forward to jump in tomorrow.
It's taken you a while to get a race seat in Formula 1.
Yes, quite a while.
Some things are worth waiting for, though.
Absolutely. No, it's been quite a long time, but I'm very happy to be here now. It was quite a long winter. I had to wait quite for a long time. It was not easy, but yeah, it's great to drive in the car and hopefully to get started soon in Melbourne.
When do we go back to? Is it 2006? I think you almost got the drive with Super Aguri as their reserve driver. Is that when Formula 1 was first on the radar for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a while back, but yeah, after that there was some spiker stuff, but it was not very serious there. I mean, I jumped in a couple of times, then I won the World Series Championship in 2008, where after I did also an F1 test with Renault. It was a pretty good test, but then, yeah, it has been a couple of years.
So why this year? How did the Caterham deal come about?
Well, I think towards the end of January the deal was done. We had our offer already on the table in December, but it's
pretty to the point of destruction, I think, on the track at the moment, and pushing as hard as he possibly can. It's one of those things. He's just gone quickest with a 1:38.09. One of those things that you want to do in testing actually is to push the car in these situations as hard as you possibly can. See what punishment you can give to the tyres.
No, absolutely. I think you know, you can have races like this. I mean, for example, last year we had one, or they had one in Malaysia, and the tyres there hold on quite well. And every time you see when you put new tyres on, they behave quite well for some laps, and after they have a little drop off. But this is the same in the dry.
So what does the season hold for you and for Caterham, do you think?
Well, for me it's my first season, so I have to learn as much as possible from my teammate, and then towards the middle of the season I have to try to let's go so there try to beat him, of course, and but for the team, you know, it's still a young team. We've now got a new CEO, and well, he will put the right people on the right places, and hopefully we'll make good steps to the right direction.
Just have to tell you what Guido did there. We saw Felipe Massa just going off the track and into the gravel, and I'm going, oh no, this could be a bit dangerous. In a very relaxed, calm Dutch way, he just pointed out to the window of our commentary box. Yeah, he's just over there, because we had an absolute perfect view out of our window, and then we could see it on the screen as well. That's not what you want, though, is it? That sort of twitchy moment coming out of the final corner.
Well, he's pushing hard, you know. He sees where the limit is, and sometimes it happens. It happened to me last week as well.
Talking of twitchy moments, you're getting a few in that Caterham at the moment. It is lacking from a driver's perspective in the downforce you would have wanted.
Well, I mean, it's not easy. I mean, last week it was my first experience in the rain, and I think it has been a very good experience. And the rain tires are not easy. They need to be on temperature to work well. And
Shemu says that the Caterham looks so ugly. Who decided to make it lime green?
Well, I think the bosses decided, but I believe it looks better than last year.
What, because you're sat in it?
Also, no, but you know, I think last year the dark green sometimes came out of black.
Yeah.
And I think when you see a picture now, it's really nice green.
And how have you fitted in with the team? Carl McIntosh tweets us at #SkyF1 saying, who would you most like to team with? And I'm sure you're more than happy with Caterham.
Yeah.
But how have you fitted in with them?
Oh, very good. I mean, last year, of course, I started to do GP2. They go now to slicks. Last year I started to do GP2 and the 2 race drivers.
Yeah, with a point to prove or two, and you've done it. Questions for Guido, #SkyF1. Questions for Ted. Were you watching that pit stop, Ted?
Yes, I was, David, and it was a bit tardy, wasn't it? Nowhere near 2.331 seconds, which is still the world record by McLaren, isn't it? But yeah, they were just shaking off some of the winter dust, maybe. It looked like those intermediate tyres really had it, though. So a good number of laps, though, Felipe Massa managed to get on those tyres. Just want to tell you, Mark Webber's out the car, helmet off, earplugs off, balaclava off. And when he came back in, they were having a look at something on the right rear of the car. So we don't know whether he had a problem. We'll find out later when we talk to Mark Webber immediately. The session, the afternoon, finishes at 4 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. here in Barcelona. But I wonder whether they're just feeling that they haven't really got anything else to learn in the wet, because the mechanics are still looking at that right rear corner, interestingly, but without any kind of urgency in that they might want Webber to go out again, because this does seem to be, just from down here in the pit lane, David, the best window of weather that we're going to have all day. We have blue sky above us, but then we have the clouds coming in from upwind, which is the weather's coming in from the direction of the last corner, really. A very stiff breeze coming down the pit lane, just pushing the cars down the start-finish line. But it looks like this is the best of the weather we're going to get. But if Webber has a problem, it looks like he's going to miss that window.
Let's bring Mark Priestley in, because, Mark, you're watching the pictures, listening to Ted as well. It's either Red Bull have got a little problem and they're working, as Ted said, at the right rear, or they've decided until the track gets that little bit drier, there's no point plodding around on Inters where Mark did a decent 4-lap stint, and at that same time had the best time of the session so far.
Yeah, well, it is just dependent on really what their sort of run plan for the afternoon is setting out to achieve, because depending on the parts they're putting on this car, it may be that if they're performance parts and they're looking to see a return on that performance, they're going to need a dry track to get that, and they may use this period where the track's perhaps not quite at its optimum to work on the car. Otherwise it's kind of possibly wasted time on track. It's a good time to be doing work that takes a bit of time in the garage, whilst it's not quite the best out on the circuit.
Mark Priestley, former mechanic, #1 mechanic with McLaren, part of our commentary team for the 4 days of this Barcelona test, and I promise you lots of special guests as well. And we have Guido van der Garde, because he's not doing anything else than sipping coffee in the Caterham motorhome today up with us. So you've got to get used to these. You're a race driver now, but there are days when you're not going to be doing much.
No, and then this is a perfect opportunity to do. But the funny thing is now Massa is on slicks, and he has the fastest middle sector now. So I think the transition's coming.
Yeah, and they'll be watching that with an awful lot of interest, Mark.
And as I said earlier, where the guys are sitting there watching through their fingers at the cars on track, you can guarantee that Massa's mechanics will be particularly worried right now if he's the only car on slicks with a very, very slippery circuit out there.
Well, it's slippery in parts, and due to the undulations of this track, that's to be expected. A track I mean, the teams come here, Guido, because it rewards good downforce, it tests good aerodynamics, but a track you enjoy and have enjoyed in your career?
Yeah, for sure. I think this is a great track to test, but of course we like some hotter temperatures because it looks like now a bit like Holland and England.
I don't think it's as cold as Holland at the moment.
Well, I mean, it's not far off. Huh?
Yeah, it's hovering around the 10-degree mark, as Felipe Massa did actually put in a 1:36.2, I think that is, with his time, which is the fastest by about 1.1 seconds, which you would expect now he's on the slick tyres.
And then it's right now at this point where his mechanics will be most worried, I can assure you, because when he's going quickly, he's right on the edge of disaster.
So we've got a tweet from Scott, who uses the hashtag SkyF1. Realistically, Guido, what are you looking? Consistent season or just beating your teammate? Sort of peaks and troughs and beating Charles Pic, or are you just looking for benchmark consistency?
Well, first of all, the consistency will be important for me, especially in the beginning. I have to learn as much as possible from my teammate, but of course he's your first competitor, so during the middle of the season I try to beat him.
And your chances of that, do you think?
No, I think...
Because he's had a year's racing ahead of you, isn't he?
No, I think there are chances. I know him quite well. We were teammates in 2011 in Adax with GP2. I think when you look at the season, I was a bit better on the beginning, he was a bit better on the end, so it was quite equal. So I think it will be a nice battle.
Has he changed a bit since those days? You can tell us now. It's just me, you, and a lot of people listening.
Well, he changed a bit. Yeah, I mean, he's a bit more open and relaxed, looks like, because before he was quite quiet and quite on his own. But you know, he's a good guy.
Is it easier making the step up to an F1 race seat, knowing that your teammate is a man you've been teammates with before? Or does that kind of make it harder because the pressure's on, because you know him that little bit better?
No, I think it's good that you know each other already before and that you work before with each other, especially for the team, because you know your strength and I know his one. So far the working relationship is quite good. We have a valuable data together, so yeah, it's been okay.
Charles Jalving says, can we say hi to Guido from Holland? He follows you, wishes you the best of luck as well. I rather get the feeling that the Belgian Grand Prix this year could be your home race, given the amount of Dutch fans we're expected to come to Spa.
I hope so. I hope to see a lot of Dutch flags with my name on it, and we can maybe make it a Dutch Grand Prix, no?
Well, we need a Dutch Grand Prix.
Yeah.
I have a question for Guido, actually. How's the relationship, being new to the role of race driver, how's the relationship so far with your team, as in your car crew? Because when, of course, last year you've done Friday runs, did you always work with the same crew of guys on a Friday morning last year, or was it different both sides of the garage last year?
Yeah, I worked with both, because one time I was in Vitali's car, and the other one I was Heikki's car. So I know them both, and this year I have the crew from Kovalainen, also his engineer, and so far it's great guys, but also the other crew are great. So.
Back with Guido in a couple of seconds. Felipe Massa on the slick tyres, out on track at the moment, 1:33.1. Fastest time that he's put in. He's the only guy really going around on slicks at the moment. Ted, down to you.
And is now joined by Lewis Hamilton, who put on medium dry tyres, medium compound dry tyres at that pit stop that he just came in and did. So Lewis, I noticed, was cooling his tyres on the straight, his intermediate tyres on the straight, for about 5 or 6 laps up until this pit stop that he's just done. So I'm just looking at his pit board, and it says L23, and that's counting up. So we don't know the total number of laps that he's going to do, but he's done 22 before he changed, and now he's on 23, of course. But Lewis on the slicks. Let's see what he can do time-wise against Massa.
Ted,
we don't know the fuel loads, of course.
Need to ask you this, Ted, because of course you've been at every single day of testing so far. A lot of yellow helmets around in Formula 1 in 2013, and a lot of our viewers are saying, excuse me, Rosberg, Hamilton, how are we expected to tell the difference?
It's easy.
It is it?
Lewis's helmet is a darker yellow. I hope that helps. Of course, we have the cameras, which you can't see because they're not running the different colour-coded T-bar cameras on top of the roll hoop. Lewis will have the red camera, if I'm not very much mistaken, David. And Rosberg is supposedly the team leader there, but just the guy who's got a bit more experience has the yellow roll hoop camera.
Do you know what, Ted?
Yeah,
I
it's a brighter yellow helmet for Rosberg.
I can bring you bang up to date with that one, because I was expecting red and yellow, and I did ask that question, and I was told, well, red and yellow? Do you mean black and yellow? I said, no, it's red, isn't it? One of them. No, it's black for this year. So it's a black camera on one car and it's a yellow on the other, and they actually didn't know the correct answer from Mercedes as to who was getting which. We'll sort it out by the time we get to Australia, but I'm glad you mentioned the cameras, because I wanted to bring that up as well. To all of you saying we're never going to tell the difference between Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg this year, Ted has just given you the correct answer. I'm now going to go and try and memorise helmets, and we'll be fine by the time we get to Australia, and at least for the next 3 and a bit days there'll only be one of them on the track, not both at the same time. Meanwhile, Felipe Massa continues on his way round, not having it completely to his liking, I think, on the slick tyres, but certainly coming up with the faster times. We caught up with him in the lunch break. Ted spoke to him.
Well, ciao, Felipe. I'm sure this weather isn't what you may have wanted. Is it still worthwhile doing some running? What can you learn?
Well, actually, the weather is not helping a lot. We're trying to do as many we can, you know, even in this difficult weather. I'm gonna do the race now, race simulation. For sure, it's not the same as on the dry, to try all different types of tires, you know, to see how the car behaves on the long run and everything. We're gonna do that with the rain tires. So anyway, I hope can be interesting also to put some mileage on the car, and maybe even tomorrow is not great weather, and I think the last 2 days should be better, so we can do everything again in the dry condition and try all the pieces and everything we need. So it's like that. We need to try to do as much as possible to, you know, to have some ideas even in a difficult condition.
So maybe the team won't be putting all the new pieces on today, but they'll come for your last day in a couple of days' time, when you'll maybe do another race simulation?
Yeah, today we have very little things in the car, so tomorrow is coming another few things, and for the last 2 days we should have most of the pieces we have to try here. So, but anyway, in this condition, I don't think you can check and learn even putting pieces on the car. So we'll wait and see for the last 2 days if we can have a proper idea about everything, and I hope everything is working and to make the car more competitive.
Well, if you can, enjoy it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Enjoying it at the moment. Certainly Ferrari in much better shape than they were this time last year, but still, as Felipe Massa intimated, and Andrea Stella knows all too well, there's an awful lot to be done between now and Australia. Just a couple more points to Guido. Guido van der Garde, who's with us here in the commentary box. A few people saying the Nürburgring has to be your home race. You might get 2 home races given the Spa and the Nürburgring's proximity to Holland.
Yeah, well, I think it's pretty close, so it's quite nice to have those close, and yeah, hope to see a lot of Dutch fans.
And finally, are Caterham in shape to score a point this year? That's the big question people want to know.
Well, it's a tough one. I think we can see where we are in Melbourne, because with the testing it's hard to see which fuel loads people are running, what tires they are doing. But so far I'm quite happy with the car, and let's see what we can do. Of course, we need a little lucky race with a bit of rain or dry. So let's see what we can do. I hope to be the first one to get that point. It would be great.
Well, we hope that you're smiling as much at the end of the season as you are now. Guido, thanks so much for being with us. Great to have you with us. Guido van der Garde from Caterham, Graham Loudon from Marussia, Paul Hembry from Pirelli, and Adrian Sutil in at Force India to join us between now and the end of the first day of our testing coverage. At the moment, Lewis Hamilton and Felipe Massa, the 2 drivers on slick tyres, and Massa is the fastest out there. It's been sunshine and showers here in Barcelona today. We've had the showers. We don't want them coming back again. We're now seeing a little bit of sunshine and some slick tyre running. Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes on the medium compound tyre. Fastest time, 1:31.6. Didn't last long. Sergio Perez, the man who jumped into his seat at McLaren with a 31.3. And Hamilton there with a 31.8. That needs updating. It's just under 31.
Very good, Crofty.
Thank you very much for coming up to talk tyres to our viewers. It's It is all change, isn't it, for Pirelli tyres for 2013, both in the construction and some of the compounds that you're going to be taking to races, and as we'll see in a moment as well, the lovely orange stripe on the side of your hard compound tyre.
Well, that was done just for you, you know, to help you out in the commentary box. So we call it Crofty Orange, actually.
It has taken me this long to have any influence in life, and it couldn't have happened at a finer moment. It looks so much prettier, that orange, than the dull grey.
Well, I'm pleased you're enjoying it.
These are the compounds for this year that we can bring you now. Wet and intermediate, seen a lot of those today. Super softs, Valtteri Bottas is on at the moment. They're the hard compound tyre with that lovely orange stripe. And, well, explain this conundrum to me. They're more rigid in their construction, but they're softer.
Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that. Yeah, the structure is certainly more forgiving. You do that to try and create a bigger footprint, which is the amount of rubber that's touching the ground. When you do that, you tend to lose a bit of lateral cornering force, so you have to reinforce just underneath that tread area, and that means you gain a little weight. The rear tyres are 700 grams heavier, the front's 300 grams, but the effect of that is that you've got a bigger footprint, which helps what we call mid-corner traction, and combined traction. It's the transition from the braking point through to acceleration, and so far it appears to be working.
What difference are the drivers going to feel this year?
Well, they're going to feel more grip, generally speaking, because the compounds are all softer, probably half a second quicker than their equivalents of last season. And as I say, they will feel a difference in the mid-corner point.
And have the wet weather tyres been redesigned as well? Adam Rhodes wants to know this on Twitter.
Yeah, the rear tyre construction's changed. If we had an issue last year, it was that they were a little bit snappy, as drivers tend to say when they were giving away, getting to their limits, which meant when they break away, they were hard to bring back in line. So we've tried to make the structure, again, more forgiving, and it helps the drivers.
It's an unforgiving job, isn't it, trying to provide tyres in Formula One? Because if you make your tyres brilliant, then people complain that the racing can get a bit boring because there's not enough overtaking and the tyres degrading is absolutely superb for the racing. But you want to make tyres as brilliant as possible, because that's kind of why you're in Formula One, to showcase what you're doing.
Well, it depends what you describe as brilliant. If brilliant is meeting what the teams have asked us to do, which is, create a technical challenge, create exciting racing, then, we're quite happy with what they do. It's really down to what people want from us. We can adapt our products to the needs of the end user, and in this case, we were asked to give a different aspect to how tyres are used in sport. And I have to say, with a number of people that come from other categories asking us to do the same, it appears to be something that people are enjoying.
Did you get it spot on last year, do you think?
Well, I think so. At the start of the year, it was an interesting challenge, wasn't it? 7 different winners. I think it's not going to be repeated for quite a long time. So that was a great start to the year. I mean, I have to say that it was combined with some quite significant technical changes on the car, so it rather amplified the situation. And this year, we're not really going to see that level of challenge, I think, for the teams.
But is that why you wanted kind of softer compounds as well, just to try and stamp out the prospects with not so many regulation changes of one pit stop races happening as a regular occurrence at the start of a year?
Well, we saw a tendency towards the end of last year towards that. We were almost getting no degradation and back to one pit stop, which was exactly what we were asked not to do. So we knew that if we didn't change anything, then that would have become almost the standard for this season.
Daniel Perkin, great question, Daniel, and I don't know if Paul knows the answer, but I'm going to put it to him anyway. How long will the average lifespan of a super soft tyre last in Australia? Because it's the first time you're taking the super softs to Australia.
Yeah, it is, and Australia's an interesting circuit because you do have a potential of some very hot temperatures. Really quite punishing. I hope so, after all this cold we've had in Spain, to be honest. But no, the super soft, will be the tyre obviously for qualifying, and we envisage it being able to do a 10-lap stint.
And a 10-lap stint. Off the top of my head,
I need to calculate it. How many pit stops?
I'm trying to remember how many laps we've got in Australia for a start. This could take a while. How many pit stops do you think we're going to get in Australia?
It's going to be 2 to 3.
Not 5.
No,
because that's what people are saying based on what we've seen in the first 2 tests.
If we go back for the last 2 years, the winter testing, we saw very high levels of degradation here on the harder tyre, about 0.25 seconds a lap in 11, and similar in 12. We saw just slightly higher last week, 0.3, but when you got to the race, it was 0.08 in both seasons. So you know, you really don't need to look too much at the data you're getting from here and what it would mean when you come back here racing.
So 58 laps in Australia. What do you say, 2 to 3 pit stops?
Yeah.
Yeah, so 11 laps for the first stop then.
Yeah.
And about 26 laps for the second stop, and then you can run, was it the medium compound tyre that you're taking as well to the end?
Yeah, the medium. Bear in mind, you know, that you get a lot of track evolution in Australia. That's something we have seen. You've got a lot of support races. And you know, as it clears and cleans up, you get good life. I mean, Perez, of course, did a one-stop back in 2011 when, again, we had similar comments. He's doing 5 and 6 stop, and he didn't one-stop. So back to that 2.4 level again. We're certainly not aiming for 4 or 5 stops.
Paul Hembry, Pirelli Motorsport Director, with us at the moment. The super soft tyres, you run them here in testing in Barcelona. It's not a tyre you ever run in the race in Barcelona. Or would you think about bringing the super softs this year?
No, it's never going to be used here in the race. Honestly.
so they're used here in testing under a bit of caution.
Well, yeah, it's not going to last very long. You might get a peak of performance, but it's not going to be suitable for the actual race.
Okay, the tyre allocations for a race weekend as well, have you got those right? Do we need more wet weather tyres to promote more running, say, places like Silverstone when the teams haven't gone out, or do we need more dry sets?
Well, the wets last, you know, to be honest, you can do a race on a wet set because there's no wear level, you know, it doesn't wear. Sometimes you get an issue with intermediates if you have a lot of drying track, but there we did change the rules so that if you ran on a Friday with intermediates, then an extra set was given for Saturday. There's certainly no reason. I mean, it tends to be more to do with people not wanting to have any incidents with the car when you're on a race weekend, and you know, that particularly when you've probably got a dry Sunday ahead of you. So you don't want to be risking something on a Saturday or Friday when the weather forecast is maybe improving.
And we have Jean-Eric Vergne in the Toro Rosso being wheeled back into the garage. I think it's always good to get a brief glimpse of the car before the screens come across. And there it will be buried for a while because this is testing, and that's why the screens are out. Just finally, Paul, that last couple of questions before we let you get back off again. And I know you're going to join us hopefully on Saturday as well.
Yeah, sure.
To talk a bit more about what we've seen in testing. But for 2014 and beyond, do we expect Pirelli to stick around in the sport? Because I don't think you've signed the contract just yet, have you?
That's correct. Well, we're hoping this isn't our goodbye year. You know, we've said we'd like to stay with the sport a bit longer, but that depends on many factors, of course. And if we can all find a solution that works for everybody, then we'd like to stay around.
When do you need to know by, or when do you need to get that sorted by?
Well, time's pressing on. Yeah, we employ a lot of people on the F1 programme, so as a sport and together with ourselves, we need to get some decisions sooner rather than later.
So what, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months?
Well, I don't want to give deadlines because that can create sometimes false impressions and puts pressure on people, but we clearly need to know in the next month.
And at the end of the season, a success for you would be what? That people are still talking about your tyres as much as they were in 2012? Because we could have devoted a whole show to tyres every week.
Well, we just want to make sure that we deliver a reliable and safe product. That's the first job that we've got, and if we've helped, you know, our little bit towards some good racing and some excitement for the fans, then we will be happy.
Paul Hembry, thank you so much for joining us. Really good to be with us, and Paul will be back with us again on Saturday as we continue our testing coverage. Mark Webber with a 1:29.1, not his fastest time so far. We're into the 1:27s for Mark Webber, and Esteban Gutierrez as well in the Sauber, who was off in the gravel in the rain, but at the moment is getting the laps in once again in his Sauber. And Sergio Perez, last year at Sauber, this year at McLaren, a 1:29.3 from him, completing the top 3. Ted, we haven't heard from you for a while. How's the pit lane looking?
Well, for two people, it's not looking particularly busy. Vergne and Grosjean, the people who've done the fewest laps today. Are they still both under 50 laps, David? Romain Grosjean, certainly last time I checked, was only on 41. Is that still the case?
Let me just get my timings up
Sorry,
right
I thought you
now.
had the
He has only
timings
done 41.
Okay,
Yes, we've not seen Romain Grosjean, Ted, out on the track since 3:15 Spanish time.
And I can tell you why. It's because he has a hydraulic leak in the Lotus E21. So they're having a look at it at the moment. They're seeing if they can fix it enough for a bit of a longer run. If they can't, they'll just send it. him out for some shorter runs to get some lighter fuel running towards the end of the day. Nice and sunny, so the track is being dried out and heated up somewhat down here in the pit lane. So it's one of a few reliability problems Lotus have had in this testing period. Kimi Raikkonen's had the worst of the reliability, the unreliability I should say, in this car. Grosjean up to this point has had it pretty good, but yeah, so hydraulics problem stopping him at the moment. And Jean-Eric Vergne, the reason that he's done not
relaxing and you're comfortable, you've got a few friends round watching the testing as well, because one by one a load of friends are coming into the commentary box here on Sky Sports F1 HD to just sit and watch racing cars going round and round. And our next guest, I'm sure, is watching a little bit more intently than maybe he was for the second test in Barcelona, because unlike coming to Barcelona for the first time and just hoping he's got a race seat for 2013, he has now got a race seat for 2013. Adrian Sutil, congratulations. Well done to you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
When did you actually find out that you got the seat?
I found out lunchtime today, around 12 o'clock. But yesterday there was already some news in the internet. You could read already more and more, so that's just a good sign. And I was pretty sure yesterday that I got the seat already, but the ultimate confirmation was today from Vijay. Yes.
Did you actually sleep at all last night then?
Yes, I could sleep. Yeah.
Because you so knew it was going to happen, didn't you?
No, but I'm still. I was a little bit probably more relaxed than other people about that. But just because, you know, it was my only chance, and I thought if it's gonna happen, I will make the most out of it, and I would love to do it, of course. I was hoping for it, but also if not, life is not over.
I don't know
you
if
can
you
do something else, of course.
I don't know if you remember, we bumped into each other in the street in London at the back end of 2011, before you'd been replaced at Force India, and you were quite confident then that you were going to be staying. How big a blow and how big a shock was it to you that you didn't actually get that drive for 2012?
Well, I knew it will be the last few races for Force India, but I was pretty sure to get some drive somewhere else. But for some reason it just didn't happen. I tried it with several teams, and it looked good, it looked promising, but in the end they decided to go for another driver for some reason. So I had no seat for 2012. Of course it was a little bit disappointing, but you know, things not always go for you.
Things sometimes happen for a reason, as we watch the Caterham team waiting for Charles Pic to come back in. If you have a question for Adrian Sutil, he would love to answer it. Hashtag SkyF1 as the Caterham comes in for its pit stop. A lot of people think it looks like a wrapped-up quality street with its lime green. I don't know if you have quality streets in Germany. They're like chocolates and garish wrappers. But what do we think of the lime green?
It's a bit strange color, but why not? Of course, it took our attention, so it's very different. It's good to be different.
You're not going to miss that in your mirrors if it's coming up behind you, are you?
No, no. But I mean, we also have a little bit of green in the car, so
you've got a proper green.
Our car is also very obvious.
This is what it looks like out on track. Lock up there from Charles Pic. I think this is DRS closed going into the first turn.
I think it's just because of the cold temperatures, and this is such a long straight, so the temperature is going down quite a lot, and then you brake hard for the first turn and you end up locking up the front. So it's a classic one, this one.
You were here, of course, last week for the test, and I'm told within 20 laps it was almost as if you'd never been away from the team's point of view. But for yourself, how different was driving this car compared to the Force India of 2011?
It was a bit different, but in a positive way. They dialed out a few problems. The car was better balanced, and I was actually very surprised how quick I could get into the groove again. The car was quite easy to drive, and after a few laps we did very, very good lap times, and so I thought it's a little bit more difficult to step in.
Really?
After 1.5 years, yes.
And do you expect that to continue this week, or is it just a little bit of rustiness and easily get over that?
I think I will be back in the car very, very good and very comfortable. I mean, the car is good for my driving style. I had the feeling from the first lap on that suits me. And also you can, well, we do a lot of simulator work, so I have done only one test, but I've done a few simulator days, which is like a real test. It's very realistic.
More questions for Adrian in a couple of moments. We're following the Toro Rosso and Jean-Eric Vergne around, and Vergne looked very impressive, I thought, on the intermediate tyres in the wet conditions this morning. Now on the slick tyres, more sensors on that Toro Rosso because it's drier out on the track. The teams can now start to monitor the airflow an awful lot better than they can when the spray is flying all over the place. Ted, you've been watching the sensors get fitted and keeping an eye on things down in the pit lane.
Yes, David, there's nothing I like more than a nice sensor array, is there? Alone the channel. And then they need to put all that sensors on there, all those sensors on there, to see whether they've got it right again. So it just helps them do it. You don't see many other teams still running sensors at this stage in winter testing. They've pretty much done that in Jerez and Barcelona 1. But obviously, Toro Rosso with a little work still to do. Just a question I've got for Adrian, if you don't mind me, David, just asking him. Adrian, how was your neck? I mean, when I was in the pit lane for your comeback, if we can call it that, last week, certainly all the Force India guys were really impressed with your speed. But I was wondering, after a good time out of the car, how did your neck feel?
Well, it actually felt all right. For sure, the first few laps, I had to get used to the forces and to the car, everything. But then it felt very comfortable, and I did all together 73 laps the whole day, and with some long runs as well. So I prepared myself, of course, but the neck, yeah, for Barcelona was still okay.
In the past, you've been associated with Force India Spiker since 2006, I think, when you first came to the team. You've brought sponsorship to the team. You've been associated with a sponsor. Was that a condition of your returning to Force India? Was this about sponsorship, or was it purely about driving ability?
No, this time I'm at this team without sponsorship. So
doing on merit.
A little bit better.
Kind of goes against the grain of a lot of drivers this year.
I still have my private sponsors, so they support me very well, but I haven't brought a team sponsor. And yeah, so I think there was a reason why they took me. But also in the last few years, I think Force India really know my potential, and they were actually, I think, quite happy about it. So.
And how much are you looking forward to taking on Paul di Resta as a teammate now that he's no longer the rookie? Because it was the team's best ever season in 2011. I think you got 60% of the points, Paul got 40%. So did you expect a difference this year? You're coming back after a year away. He's had 2 years experience. How's the dynamic going to work?
We will see. It will be nice to see how he grew up in the last year. He's a good driver, he's a strong driver, I know that, and we worked along very well. So hopefully there's a good competition. I want to race against fast drivers anyway, and want to compete against the best one. So let's see how he developed, but I'm sure I'll have a, of course, difficult time sometimes.
A lot of people asking about, how you're going to get on against Paul. Daniel Perkin is one of the many. He also says, has Paul had a bit of an unfair advantage given that he's done most of the testing so far?
Well, yeah, the testing wasn't really, or is not a lot for me. I have 2 more days here and then straight to racing. But I got a few more years experience than Paul, so I think we're still leveled, and after 1 or 2 races it should be very equal.
And we've just seen Lewis Hamilton going off there. The conditions still not ideal. Have you spoken to Lewis today since you got back to the paddock? Did you see him in Barcelona? Has he had a chat with you yet?
No, I'm not in contact with him anymore, so we have no relationship.
Is that going to be hard? Because you were really good friends, weren't you? And now not so good. Is it going to be hard being in that same environment with him for the rest of the year?
Well, I have no problems, to be honest. Let's see what he says. As I said, I never met him after this incident, and the whole year we had no contact last year. So, but I think the latest when I will see him will be in Melbourne on the driver's parade. So Let's see what comes out.
Which
really,
I'm sure you'll love, being on that driver's parade, waving at the crowd, you know, being a race driver in Formula 1 again. I asked this to Guido van der Garde, I've got to ask you this as well then. Your goals, your expectations for this year, what would be a good return?
A good return, well, I have high targets, and I want to be better than in 2011. So that means better than P9 in the World Championship.
Yeah.
I think it's possible. And of course, still my dream is to win. It's not a dream, it's my target. I want to work on it as hard as possible to achieve that. And yeah, so winning the championship, winning the races, being on the podium. This is normal goal for a race driver, I think.
Well, you've come close to a podium before, and through no fault of your own, it didn't quite happen. I wish you the best of luck this year. I think a podium for the team, for you, has got to be #1 goal.
Yes, it would be about time, and I think we can do it. Yeah, there are always plenty of possibilities and opportunities, so let's take them. I'm very keen and very confident.
Good to see you around. Thanks ever so much, Adrian.
Thank you.
Adrian Sutil with us on Sky Sports F1 HD and Sky 3D. Here at testing, Valtteri Bottas has been out there for quite a long time in his Williams. Esteban Gutierrez is the quickest man on the track at the moment with a 1:26.574. He's just gone fastest with that time. He's done 77 laps today. Bottas has done 67. The man with the most laps, though, Felipe Massa, 101 laps so far, in and out of the showers. And welcome back to Barcelona. Valtteri Bottas out on track as he has been now for the last 3 laps, and has just gone fastest as well with a 1:26.4. Now, how long this run lasts rather indicates the true performance of the Williams, as is ever the case in testing. You have to try and work out the relative fuel loads whilst the fast times were being set. These are the quickest times for each of the drivers so far today. Bottas right out in the front, 1:26.4, but Esteban Gutierrez about 1/10 of a second down. Lewis Hamilton for a Mercedes team that noticed last week in Barcelona that they were a lot faster relative to the competition when the track conditions were getting cooler. Maybe as was the case in China last year, of course, where it got very cool indeed, and they went and won the race. Mark Webber with a 1:27.4. That was a time that was set quite a while ago, about 20 minutes ago from Mark Webber's Red Bull. Felipe Massa, who's in the middle of a race simulation and is now on his 104th lap. Sergio Perez in McLaren, and then all the way down to Jean-Eric Vergne, who hasn't really set a competitive time on the slick tyres. Johnny Herbert is back in the commentary box with us. Mark Priestley, former #1 mechanic at the McLaren team. Guys, who's been catching your eye whilst I've been talking to Adrian Sutil and Paul Hembry?
Well, Bottas in that latter part seemed to be really, really quick, but actually as you were talking, Crofty, was the tyres didn't have really any marking, so it was very difficult to see what tyres he had on the car. Mark Webber looked very, very good, I have to say. Looked very consistent, very at ease, and it all seemed to be that middle sector where that car was very good, which classically is where there's all traction at the rear.
Don't ever go at me about markings. Go and talk to Paul Hembry. He's put an orange stripe on for me this year. I have nothing said against.
No, but that's always what makes us testing very difficult to read, doesn't it? You're sort of looking at it. We're looking at marks on this Red Bull. We know what they are, but with Bottas, we had no idea.
You're also looking, Mark, as well, at a situation where, yes, we have a drier track, but are you going to go on very low fuel runs in these sort of conditions, or are we still running, you know, with about half race fuel on there?
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if anyone's going to do a sort of quali-style low fuel run in these conditions. A, as I said earlier, it's too big a risk of putting the car off. And B, you're not really going to gain anything because it's not a representative lap. Now, you may well come across these conditions during qualifying during the year, but if it happens, you know, you just have to deal with it. You can't really simulate it because it's such a varying track at the moment.
I'm going to ask this question to you both, though, on behalf of absolutely every single person watching the coverage, and I'm going to ask it every single day as well. Red Bull aren't the fastest car at the moment. They're going for a 4th double World Championship season. Are they sandbagging? Are they hiding their true potential, their true pace? Johnny, come on, answer the question.
Well, I remember last year, I do remember reading last year, and I thought they were sandbagging. They went to Australia and they struggled in qualifying. OK, Sebastian did a great race. We're in a similar situation here where you sort of look at it and you think, well, they're not right at the front, generally in the tests we've had before. But, you know, are they sandbagging, or are they sort of not quite where they need to be?
Personally, I don't believe there's such a thing as sandbagging in Formula One these days. I don't think people do it. I do think, however, that teams throughout their testing, and they do this year on year out, have a sort of baseline fuel load that they will do the majority of their running at. And that baseline fuel load will be different for each team. Obviously don't know what that is. However, the one thing I would say is that when people move between teams, as we just watched Ferrari doing a practice stop there, when people move between teams in Formula One, as they do, you know, mechanics go, engineers go, and even management, as we've seen recently, can swap teams as well. They take all that information with them. So whilst we don't really know, you know, what everybody's running here, most of the teams will have a fair idea of the fuel level that the other teams will be running for the majority of the testing period.
Johnny, see those yellow markings on the side of Felipe Massa's car? He's on the soft tyre now, just to let you know.
I should put my 3D glasses on. Ah, yes, I can see them now.
Yes, you can take them off, you look like Roy Orbison. Anyway, on the subject of relative fuel loads, the tradition last year appeared to be that McLaren and Red Bull ran very similar fuel loads in the practice sessions. Ferrari tended to run a touch lighter, often making their times and their performances a little sort of harder to gauge. Mercedes were maybe just a little bit lighter at times than Ferrari as well. And Lotus were actually quite comparable, I think, in fuel loads to the McLaren and to the Red Bull. And that tended to be how it went for the whole season. Now, is there any reason to think that would then change from one season into another?
I don't think so. I don't think really from a team's point of view there's any point in doing that, because, you know, if you're running around at say, you know, 60 kilos for a period of time in 2012, come to 2013, you're at the same tracks, you know, you're running a new car at the same time of year, roughly the same sort of conditions. Why change your fuel load? You know, it makes your data, you can't overlay the two, you know, the two tests and be comparative. So
getting some proper mileage in, Johnny, you know, from a driver's perspective, when you have an afternoon like this where, you know, the rain hasn't come back, the car hasn't broken down, you've not spun off at all.
Or the weather that we had earlier today, they changed their programme, but of course if the situation changes again, they can revert into the programme that they were going to start with. So that's always a good thing. And Ferrari themselves do look very good. I say it's very, very consistent. And it's just all these laps that are going into a process of Felipe himself learning about the tyres, which equally goes across to the engineers as well.
Yeah, and don't forget, we're sitting here looking at this thinking we've got 4 more days of testing before Australia. For Felipe Massa and all of the other drivers out today, they've got 1 more day after today. So it is crucial.
That's right. A few of you have been asking, actually, why can't the teams run 2 cars each day during the course of testing? Now, bearing in mind that at the last test, Red Bull had over 100 members of staff out here, and that's marketing as well as garage guys, just for the 1 car, and that actually the amount of staff that work for Formula One teams has been reduced quite a lot since the days, Mark, where you never got a wink of sleep for the entire winter. I wouldn't imagine that they've got the means to run 2 cars at the moment.
Well, it's not actually necessarily that. I mean, the reason, just quickly to answer the question, the reason the guys are only running 1 car at this test is because that's all the rules allow. The modern Formula One rules, you know, restrict teams to running only 1 car on 1 day. And the big thinking behind that initially for everybody, of course, you know, nobody's disadvantaged. But that's when we were talking about back in the day, if you like, when we did run 2 cars and testing was pretty much unlimited. We'd be running around, like I say, from November through to the first race in March, putting as many possible miles as you can before that first race. Now it's restricted, but it is the same for everybody, and they have to make the most of the limited time they got available.
Well, there'd have been times, Johnny, when you'd have been the only bloke out on the track here for a couple of days in Barcelona in February or March.
Yeah, there have been occasions, very few of them, but it's something that it surprises me with all these sort of cutbacks, and that the night shift guys that turn up, and that's basically because when they're preparing the cars, it takes so long. I think it's sort of over an hour just to take a floor off.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the guys will be working basically more or less, you know, up until 3 o'clock in the morning before they have to get running again.
Talking of which, work going on. Romain Grosjean is back out on track again after that hydraulic problem. And work going on at Marussia. We can actually see into the garage there. Ted is standing by. What do you know, Ted?
A lot of work going on Max Chilton's car. 1, 2, 3, 4 mechanics, 5. Some guys overseeing it from the rear wing. It looks like they're working on the side pod and the exhaust exit and just where it meets the rear suspension. So I'll see if I can have a bit of a closer look as well. But Max Chilton, David, in the car again for Marussia. And, well, we had this story in the F1 show on Friday, didn't we, David? I put this Luis Razia question to you rather cheekily at the end of my cross to you and Nat's in the studio, suggesting that his money hadn't appeared from Brazil as the reason why he wasn't in the car for the whole of the last test. And it seems to be that is indeed the case, that one of his sponsors, we understand, one of his sponsors has let him down. And so he's desperately trying to get the money to secure his drive. But the rumours today in the paddock are that Marussia are considering Heikki Kovalainen as a standby emergency driver for the first Grand Prix and maybe more, the first few flyaways in Melbourne. But, well, David, I know you've got more on this, but it would be quite a turnaround, wouldn't it, to get yet another driver change. We thought with Sutil that was the grid completed, but we might have Kovalainen in for Razia.
It might well change. As it stands at the moment, Luis Razia is still Marussia's driver, and Graham Loudon, the president and sporting director, is due to be in the box between now and the end of the test. And I'm going to put the question to him because a lot of you want to know: are the rumours true? Is Luis Razia going to lose his drive? Is Heikki Kovalainen going to come in? I've heard all the rumours as well, Ted. And Heikki has been linked with that Marussia team as far back as just after Brazil, after the finale, at the end of last season, where I think he did actually have a chat with the Marussia team about driving for them in 2013. But we'll put all that to Graham Loudon. Mark, you know, from the looks on the guys' faces, Ted was saying a major job going on in the garage. Does that look like that could be the end of the running for Max Chilton?
Well, it's very difficult to say. I hate to speculate on what might be going on because it is so hard to say unless you're right and they're involved. But Ted's saying they're talking about exhausts there. You know, a big thing with the exhaust this year, you know, is about the channel that they run through, the angle they come out of the back of the car. They all run very, very close to bodywork. And at this stage of the season, where there's still new parts coming onto the car in terms of bodywork and the exhausts, there could well be issues in terms of things overheating. In fact, is that him just coming back on track now?
It is.
So it can't have been too serious.
This is why you don't speculate.
Exactly.
So well done, that man. Max Chilton comes out behind Lewis Hamilton. And we have 4 British drivers, of course, on the grid for 2013. Just, Johnny, we're looking at the empty stands, and there are a few fans dotted around Barcelona. I know a few Brits have made their way over here as well. I'm looking forward to seeing a few when we go off air. But there was a time when a Scotsman was watching you quite keenly from the stands here at Barcelona, and you told this story last night, and you have to repeat it.
Yeah, well, it was my first test here for Stuart, and beknown to me, Jackie was sitting in the stand at the back into turn 9, just watching, and he was always very hands-on, very involved, and wanting to help, to be perfectly honest. So anyway, so he goes, I go out, I come back in, and then Jackie sort of comes down, his little head comes in, he says, Johnny, I was having a look around the circuit, you look very aggressive with the car, you're fighting the car, you've got to be smooth in the car. So then from the next time I went out, because he went back up there.
Oh, Felipe Massa stopped.
Yeah.
And Felipe Massa, we saw the yellow flag. You can go back to that story in a moment, Johnny, because it's got a great punchline. But Felipe Massa's Ferrari has stopped by the side of the track. See the marshal and the fire extinguisher, but no need for that to be used at all. And I wouldn't be at all surprised if we're now going to see a red flag and the session come to a halt whilst they can recover that Ferrari car. So Max Chilton will come back in. Johnny, you've got to finish your story for everyone who's hanging on your every word.
And he basically said to me, he said, well, I go back out on the track and I'll be watching you a little bit more. So anyway, so when I went through turn 9, I was as easy and soft as I possibly got, about 3 seconds off the pace. And I came back in and he popped down again and he says, hey, Johnny, he said, that was much better, but you're still aggressive. with a car. And that was just something that he was always very helpful, but 1973, that was always different.
Yeah, but of course the thing was you were driving the Stewart Grand Prix and he was paying for you, so he wanted you to take care. That's why you need to be smoother.
Yes.
That's why. Mark Webber, 1:25.0 from Valtteri Bottas, 1.4 second difference. Massive margin that. But the track drying up all the time, and it might be down to conditions improving as much as the pace of the Red Bull. Might be that Mark Webber has the fastest time of the day, because we've got a red flag here with 23 minutes to go of this session, and Felipe Massa's Ferrari has stopped. So welcome back to Barcelona, where you can see the wind is still very stiff along the back straight. It's whipping up a storm underneath that blanket, though. Ferrari stopping on the track, and Ted Kravitz is down in the pit lane whilst we've got this red flag. Nice and quiet for you, Ted, but do we know what's happened to the Ferrari?
Well, Felipe came back and was making some hand gestures to his engineer, Rob Smedley, about something not working on the cars, what I interpreted them to be. He was coming to the end of his race simulation anyway, and they do run these cars dry, don't they, to just check whether their fuel pickup systems are working and whether their fuel measuring systems that they have in the pits are exactly right. But it doesn't look like that's happened just from where he's stopped. And certainly from his body language, came in and was saying that, you know, I was doing something and something broke on the car. But anyway, we will, not the end of the world, happens all the time in testing, of course, doesn't mean anything. And indeed, Ferrari's reliability has been pretty good over the previous tests. But I'll have a look for what it's worth when the car comes back in. We'll talk to Felipe afterward and let you know as soon as we know.
And those two Ferrari mechanics doing a wonderful job to keep the cover on the diffuser so that nobody can have a look at the secrets underneath that Ferrari. This was Felipe Massa arriving back into the Ferrari garage. 112 laps he'd completed before the car stopped on track, and hopefully we'll hear from him between now and when we go off air. So Mark Webber, fastest man with a 1:25.061, set on the medium compound tyre. This was Felipe Massa, swapping helmet for baseball cap at the back of the garage. And one would assume, I don't like to speculate too much, but one would assume without too much worry that that is the end of Felipe Massa's running for today. But 112 laps in, he's not done too bad. Max Chilton, meanwhile, has put in 68 laps for today. And I bring in the subject of Max Chilton because his boss, the president and sporting director at Marussia, is alongside me in the commentary box. Graham Loudon, good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, Crofty.
But thought you'd be coming in right at the climax here of the day's running, and you'd be looking at Max's times and see if he can improve on his best time, which is good enough for 9th fastest of that 1:32.4. But even if he can't get out there for a while, that's still not a bad effort today, is it?
Yeah, you know, we got a lot of laps in today, did a lot of work. The engineers are working through, you know, a really comprehensive program before we get down to Melbourne. I think we're a little bit behind in the program, but I think run round in the rain. Are you in a better situation than you were last year, though? Because at least you've come testing with the new car for all 3 tests. Yeah, I mean, last year in Melbourne, the car had never done more than, the new car at that time had never done more than 12 laps before we started the Australian Grand Prix, and obviously that's not an ideal situation. This year we've done a huge amount more, but you know, the team has moved on so much more in 12 months in every area, and you know, I think that's reflected in the new car, and a new design team, new structure back in Banbury, and everyone's worked really hard there. And you know, things are looking quite good. Is it the work of Pat Simmons, or is it the work of a team? Has Pat led the technical direction? Oh, you know, it's very much a team. There's no question about that. You know, Formula One is the ultimate team sport, and so you require everyone to pull together. And a lot of the guys back at Banbury have been with the team right from the start. You know, Pat's added really good structure and leadership into the equation, and we're starting to see that mix now.
As we're seeing the Ferrari go back to the pits, let's have a look at some cars running, or your car running. This is Max Chilton's day today, because obviously we've been focusing on him a little bit. He's going to have to get used to this, signing autographs for the fans.
And having his picture taken.
Yeah. He's going to be doing a lot of that for the year. I hope you've told him how to stand up straight and smile.
Yeah, he gets no shortage of advice from us on such technical aspects. He's very good at, he is very good at that, and some drivers aren't.
How good is he at this, though? How highly do you rate Max Chilton?
Very highly. The challenge he's had today, it's the same as all the drivers, really, but it's more so, I think, for the guys who haven't done multiple seasons in Formula One, is it's been difficult to get any kind of consistency on a day like this. So it can be frustrating for the engineers to try and work through a program. But it is still useful for the drivers, and Max has had an experience now on lots of different tyres in lots of different scenarios. The engineers will run pressure sweeps and with different sets of tyres to give him an idea of what effect that has, and so we do take positives from this kind of weather, even though it's it's a bit like Newcastle on a wet weekend.
No, it is colder. Trust me on this one. So you've got the positives. Cars looking good. Technical team looking good. Max Chilton's looking good. Now we have had a lot of tweets and a lot of questions, and we met at lunchtime, and I said I'm going to ask you this on air today about your second driver, because every time you take a step forward, there sometimes seem to be steps taken back as well. Is Luis Razia still your driver at Marussia? What is the situation?
Yes, as it stands, we have a contract with Luis, and prefer not to comment on the detail of the contract at all. But as it currently stands, there's no change. There's no change to that. As part of the management team at Marussia F1, we have to make lots and lots of decisions that are right for the whole team. I mentioned before, it's the ultimate team game. We've got 200 employees, all of whom are focused on improving our performance. The driver is a key element of that, but it's an element of it. So we have to do the right thing and put the right people in the car at the right time, and that's basically what you're seeing at the moment.
If I was to read into that comment, then, could the right people at the right time not be Luis Razia in Melbourne and somebody else in the interim until whatever problem that is keeping him out of the car at the moment is cleared up?
Crofty, you've got way too much time on your hands to start thinking.
No, I thought of that in about 10 seconds.
Look, it is what it is. As far as the decisions that have been made and we will continue to make, they're the right decisions for the team, and that's really, that'll be reflected in everything we do. There's no change in the contractual position at all, and if there are changes, it'll be because it's the right thing.
I appreciate it's difficult and there's contracts, but there's a rumour flowing around, and we love rumours in Formula One, and you love rumours just as much as the next man. Heikki Kovalainen, it is a name that has been linked with you as a possible replacement should you need to replace your driver lineup.
Should we need to replace driver lineup? Every driver I can possibly think of. So we've had Heikki Kovalainen, Timo Glock, Nigel Mansell, you name it.
Nigel Mansell's been in touch. No, that will be a story.
So it's speculation.
Yeah, and there will be lots of it, because there are a lot of drivers out there, and you've already replaced Timo because of financial matters, and there are drivers with budgets out there that will sense an opportunity, and I wouldn't say like vultures here, but we'll sense if one man is struggling to come up with the funds needed, we'll think, right, we can be in there as well.
Yeah, and that's the nature of Formula One. It's filled with competitive. It's filled with competitive people, and if you stand still in this game, you go backwards. It's often said. So, that kind of speculation's completely understandable. But from our point of view within the team, it's our job to make the right decisions for the team, and that includes the drive. Includes making the right decisions for the drivers. We've got a very good relationship with both our drivers, and so that it's not unusual to see this kind of speculation.
And it wouldn't be unusual as well to see one driver announced and another driver, you know, taking that seat come the first race. It's happened before. I'm sure it'll happen again.
I'm sure it's happened before. I'm sure it'll happen again. It's Formula One.
Do you regret the fact that the team in its third year is having to look at a driver that brings sponsorship rather than the driver that you think this is the out-and-out talented driver we want?
I think you see that up and down the entire grid. It's not that's not specific to our team by any stretch. Formula One is an incredible sport. You know, it's a sport that we all love. I mean, that's quite clear. It has a huge global fan base, and it is very, very popular. And so, you know, the team should all be doing very, very well. You know, I'm hoping that all the right decisions are made within the sport to make sure that that's the case.
Coming to the end of Max's latest lap here on the medium compound tyres, as the Ferrari is now back in the pit lane again, and Max crosses the line with a 1:28.1, which I think is his best time of the day so far. It is on the medium compound tyres. 71 laps completed for Max. He's doing a good job. The Cosworth engine's doing a good job, but for next year, will you be running Cosworth engines again?
Well, I've said this before. I can't possibly comment for Cosworth. I don't work for them. But you know, the signs are that the three obvious suppliers of engines are the ones who have widely publicised their programmes, and that's Ferrari, Mercedes, and Renault. And you know, certainly those three manufacturers have put a lot of work and investment into the new power units. It's the biggest single change in Formula One for a long, long time, and it's certainly going to present a challenge to all the teams. That's for sure.
Do you have a preference at the moment? If you need a new engine supplier, is there one out there that you think is better than the others? Well, have you had the brochures on your desk yet?
Well, the best one will be the lowest cost.
Is that the baseline for you? Is that whatever we can afford?
The technical regulations are beginning to solidify now, and you know, the manufacturers who are making these engines are all very good. I think the commercial package is important. I think the biggest issue is going to be how teams decide to allocate their resource between 2013 and 2014. You know, we started designing our 2014 car some way through last year, you know, which I think might surprise some people. But if the team, no matter how big the team is, hasn't started already, you know, in a significant way on the design of the 2014 car, then they're going to. In fact, our 2014 model has already been in the wind tunnel.
Really?
Yeah, and.
You know, even without an engine that you know?
Yeah, well, because we already have design characteristics for most of them, common mounting points, all that kind of thing, cooling figures and the like. So yeah, our 2014 model's been in the tunnel, and that, you know, I'm sure the other teams will be the same, because it's a huge step, and you know, that's where you need to be.
See, our viewers here helpfully suggesting things for 2014. Monil Santilal says, Gil Bianchi for the team, tie in nicely with a Ferrari engine deal. See, it's not just me that sits there with too much time on their hands, but it's a great fit.
Yeah, I think engine choice goes way beyond driver selection. But I'm sure if your laptop keeps spinning, more names will keep popping up.
Well, here's a name to pop up. Ted Kravitz. Not for your seat, but down to the pit lane with him.
I'm not sure you could fit him in.
No, fascinating. I want to hear more from Graham, but just to tell you quickly, Mark Webber has just bolted on a brand new set of soft tyres and has gone out right at the end of the session. Let's see what lap time he does.
What do you think he's trying to do there, Ted?
I have absolutely no idea. That's the beauty of testing. All I'm doing is telling you what he's doing. We don't know what fuel load he's on. He did come in for a run, though, so and they didn't refuel him. So he's been out doing and then they made the quick decision to put on a new set of tyres and send him out. So let's see what he does.
Interestingly, Ted, I've just got him down as doing the 1:23.8, which is the fastest time, and that's the only lap he did on that last set of tyres before he went back out again. Ted covering 11 teams down there, and it would tally a quick pit stop there with the 4 that he'd done previously. But Mark Webber bolting on a new set of tyres, trying to go a little bit faster. We've got hard compound tyres. Is that hard compound tyres or is that red super soft? It's the hard tyres for Sergio Perez. It's not a problem us commentators are going to have at a race weekend with the orange and the red. That works for me. But here, just trying to make sure. Ted's notebook, by the way, we'll have a shortened Ted's notebook in the debrief at the end of this session day. Simon Lazenby and Johnny Herbert down in the paddock as Toro Rosso come out for a low run as well. From a team point of view, Graham, is it a case of, look, we've got a programme to do, if we've done it, we'll go out and chase a time at the end? Or actually, are these laps kind of important for a bit of a morale boost within the team come the end of the day's testing?
Yeah, I think if you have time to do them, then it's quite a nice morale boost. It's instantly forgotten at 1 picosecond past 9 the next morning because it all starts again. But track time is so valuable in Formula One that every time the car goes out, you have to learn something, no matter how small it is. So there will be learning something. Yes, it's always nice to give the driver a little bit of a boost as well. Let them feel the grip levels, especially on a day like this when it's been quite variable.
So back to the team again, in terms of your continued participation in Formula One. Brazil, huge disappointment for you, just missing out on that 10th place. Have you been able to absorb that financial blow over the winter, or is your situation as perilous as some may have thought towards the end of the year?
Brazil was a disappointment purely and simply because we're competitive. People are racers. That's why we do this. Our team. The DNA of our team is racing. It's what we live for. So we were disappointed to be overtaken. We hate it. And in terms of financial impact, that move didn't actually have a financial impact on us for this season. Yes, it does in the bigger picture, but if we look just at the immediate situation, it didn't change things at all. It had a positive impact for Caterham, so I guess they'd be happy.
Absolutely, and strengthens your resolve, I'm sure, to try and get to beat them for the case of this year.
Yeah. As everyone knows, everybody gets on very well with each other. There's a lot of camaraderie in the paddock, but when the cars get on the track, you just want to beat the other guy. That's the nature of the sport.
And this is a brilliant finish to the session here. Bottas, Hamilton and Peak, who was your man last year in the Caterham this year, all out on track together, and you can see the differentials in speed, can't you, between the Williams and the Mercedes and the Caterham in the background. Here's the fastest man on track, Mark Webber, into the 122s, bolted on a set of soft tyres, and he's backing up enough to give himself chance for one more run before the clock ticks round to 4 o'clock. Graham, thanks ever so much for joining us. Max Chilton in the car tomorrow?
He is, yes. I looked at the run plan. I knew you'd ask me, so I did look at the run plan. He's in tomorrow, yes.
Good man. Yeah. And then we'll see what happens at the weekend.
Yeah. Can I just say one quick thing? Can I say something about this 3D that I'm watching here? It's the first time I've experienced it. If anyone's not seen it, they really should, because it is absolutely fantastic, and it's what we should see more of.
Well, you stick around, stick your glasses back on, and you can watch it on our 3D monitor.
Thank you very much.
As Mark Webber starts his final flying lap. Thanks ever so much, Graham, for coming up. And if the situation changes at Marussia, we'll bring it to you over the course of these 4 days. As it stands at the moment, Luis Razia is still very much their man for Melbourne. Mark Priestley, former #1 mechanic, a touch mark on entry into turn 5, which is a tricky little corner at the best of times.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, he's bolted on some soft tyres. He's trying to do a fairly quick lap as the track's in perhaps its optimum condition at this stage. But what you have to remember, this is the last lap he's going to get for this whole day. And at the end of that lap, when the checkered flag comes out for the teams, the work now really begins. Yeah. They don't stop at this point. There's a whole night, and I do mean a whole night's worth of work to get these cars turned around, any new bits bolted on, fired up, set up and prepared again for tomorrow morning start. And the last thing they need now is any sort of accident, obviously. because they've got an awful lot of work just with a perfectly straight car, let alone a bent one.
At what time does the night shift come on?
The night shifts for most of the teams would have probably come into the circuit around about 4 o'clock. They have a fairly large crossover period, and then the day shift, I imagine, will probably head home around about 7, 8 o'clock this evening. So they have that crossover period to sort of hand the car over, if you like. It also gives them a chance, whilst the cars are on track, to have an hour's crossover period where the entire race team is there to be able to carry out any pit stop practice later in the week if they want to.
Which is important as well, as we know pit stops can make or gain, lose, I should say, a place during the course of the race in this test. But a lot of what goes on at night as well is actual time simulations of changing parts on cars in readiness for first practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to sort of clear that up, they won't necessarily just change parts purely to time them, but over the course of this whole testing period from January, from the beginning of February onwards, somebody will be timing, like you say, the duration that each job takes on a car. Everything from strapping a driver in, removing the bodywork, removing the floor, an engine change, literally everything will have a time allocated to it, so that engineers and team management, when it comes to Melbourne and beyond, if they've got a set period of time before, let's say, qualifying, they know what they're able to achieve in that time.
Mark Priestley with us here on Sky Sports F1 HD and Sky 3D throughout the duration of these 4 days of testing. And we'll have more special guests in the commentary box tomorrow as well. Mark Webber is the fastest man with a 1:22.6 for the day, and he's put in 88 laps during the course of the day. Not the most amount of laps. Felipe Massa got in a very nice long run simulation, and we'll crunch some numbers on Massa's time, Massa's duration for you. In fact, he started out with a 1:47.2 in that race simulation, which was in the wet conditions on the intermediate tyres, and his last time lap before he stopped was down to a 1:29.9 for that race simulation. He then went back out again, did 3 laps before that Ferrari stopped, so it wasn't actually part of his race simulation. But a lot of laps that the teams have got in today, and I think every single one will be thankful that the rain kept away in the afternoon and they could actually get some serious mileage on the board. Mark Webber with a 1:22.6 then, and I look to my left and see Esteban Gutierrez coming in now in the Sauber, which means they're all pretty much back in. Felipe Massa shows on our timing screen has still been out there, but that's only because his car didn't complete the lap. And clouds all around us here in Barcelona. We had rain this morning, heavy showers over the lunch break, but this afternoon it has kept dry, which is superb, and I can even see a touch of blue sky up there as well. The forecast for the weekend is much better. Tomorrow, bit of rain forecast for the afternoon as well, but whatever happens, rain or shine, of course, we'll be here to cover it on Sky Sports F1 HD. So here we are, the times. Mark Webber, 90 laps in total on the soft tyres. He set a time of 1:22.6. Lewis Hamilton was 1.6 seconds back on the medium compound tyres, along with Jean-Eric Vergne, who went out right towards the end. Only got 59 laps in the Toro Rosso, though. Hamilton, 113 laps. Mercedes making up for the lack of mileage in the first couple of days of the first test. Since then, they've had a bit more reliability. Valtteri Bottas using the super soft tyres. You wouldn't normally use them here in Barcelona, but they bolted them on the Williams for his time of 1:26.4, as they did at McLaren with Sergio Perez as well. 100 laps for him. His former team, Sauber, and Esteban Gutierrez with the 6th fastest time. Paul di Resta only managing 57 laps. We didn't see a huge amount of the Force India today at all. Felipe Massa was the man that got in a very nice race simulation in this afternoon. 112 laps for him, but they ended up, Ferrari, for whatever reason, stopped out on the track. A lot of Lewis Hamilton's good work coming in from about 3:10 down to 25 to 5 Spanish time. That's one complete race simulation combination done for him as well. Max Chilton, 78 laps. They didn't get everything they needed to get in at Marussia, as Graham Loudon admitted to us, but ahead of Charles Pic. Once again, the Marussia faster than the Caterham by half a second, and Romain Grosjean had a hydraulic problem, and that left him in the garage for a long time. Slowest of all the times today, but he never really got a fast lap in the dry conditions.
Thanks, Crofty. More from Crofty over the next 3 days. A far more encouraging afternoon for the drivers out there after the damp conditions of the morning. However, day 2, the forecast is for more rain. We hope it stays away, and we'll get to see the cars whizzing around the track all afternoon. That's what we came here for, and that's why you'll be enjoying it on Sky 3D. It's F1 HD, and we've got everything covered.
Okay, let's give it everything you can now.
Absolutely.
Welcome to.
We're back.
I think this has got first corner crash written all over it, to be honest.
It's going to be a bit of a mishmash, I think.
This afternoon's guests include Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton.
Fire up and go. Settle into a rhythm and get on with it.
Sutil coming back. Sutil, really?
Game very much on.
Lewis Hamilton has crashed on his first morning of pre-season testing for Mercedes.
So Lewis Hamilton, a frustrating day for him, as it was for Nico Rosberg.
He pushed me off the track.
It expects the unexpected.
We are still in this to win.
Yes, you won't miss a thing if you come around the world with us. The only place to see all 19 races live. Got every practice session, every qualifying, and the F1 show as well. And the season gets underway, as we know, in just over 2 weeks' time in Australia. 3 of the first 4. There's the details as well for the Australia race weekend. 1 AM for the first practice. It's 2:45. 4:30 ahead of A6. So there we go. Jenson Button was happy to get things off on a good foot last year. He bookended the season. Victory in Australia, victory in Spa, and of course victory in Brazil as well. But this afternoon, the opening day of testing and the third and final test, it's Mark Webber that's gone quickest. When we come back, we hope to hear from Lewis Hamilton, who put in a fair few laps this afternoon himself. First day of the third and final test here in Barcelona. The temperature never getting into double figures, and with the wind chill as well. It really was a cold day for all those guys to go out there. In the end, it was Mark Webber who went quickest on the softs. He put in 90 laps. 1:22.69 was his best time. Lewis Hamilton actually had a very busy afternoon as well. He said his quickest time on the mediums, but putting in 113 laps. He really was getting a good look at those long runs. Then Jean-Eric Vergne in his Toro Rosso and Valtteri Bottas. I mean, they've been cooing for the last couple of weeks, haven't they, about the Williams, how well it's been going in testing. So Bottas pretty happy with his performance today. I mean, yes, it's testing, and we always keep saying it's only testing, Johnny. It was a very frustrating morning, but they will have learnt a lot more this afternoon, won't they?
I think so, and I think at the end of the day they would have been changing their programme with that wet weather, and luckily we heard rain was going to come. It didn't come. They could revert back and do some, some proper decent running in those dry conditions, and we did see some very good runs, long runs. Mark especially, I think, looked very cool with the way the tyres were working with the car.
I had a little trot up to commentary and heard your wise words up there, talking about the Red Bull itself being a little bit nose happy, and the back of the car a little bit looser, but something that Mark Webber is very easy able to control.
Yeah, well, with a car, if you've got this understeer that you hear about, it's very hard to come back to stop it understeering. One, it rips up the tyres anyway, and it's very hard to come back. You have to go slower, but you can just play with the cars a little bit loose at the back and actually just sort of balance balance it much easier. Plus, you don't really rip up the tyres because you can control it a lot easier. That seems to be what the Red Bull has at the moment. We're going to have to wait and see exactly what everybody else has got when they have everything on the car, but it does look like a very good sign for them, maybe not for the others.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? We have been talking about sandbagging. Interestingly, Mark was saying in commentary there he doesn't believe that teams do that now.
No, well, that sandbagging is just what people think, but they always do. Like Mark was saying, they have a strategy, they have the fuel, and they keep to that fuel. And that's where some people say, well, they're keeping to that fuel, they're never doing these fast sort of low run fuel runs, and it's something that they don't need to do because they know and can work out what time to do them with the 60 kilos of fuel, whatever it may be. You take that all out, they know where they're going to be. So that's where they will always, the big teams especially, will do that. You'll get the smaller teams that will try and do a little bit of sort of a PR stunt in these conditions and this time of the season. But I think Red Bull do look very good. But Ferrari also, Felipe did some long runs as well.
Yeah. We were hoping to hear from Lewis Hamilton. Unfortunately, he has been waylaid. We'll try and catch up with him a little bit later. In the meantime, though, Ted's with Mark Webber.
So, Mark, tell us about today. Was the wind as much a problem as it felt for us standing around the track?
Yeah, it was pretty heavy, I must say. Big tailwind down to turn one. So, and then in other sections of the track, yeah, it's pretty gusty. So, yeah, it's not trivial, the level of wind. But, you know, it was tricky enough as it was on the greasy conditions all day. We got 1 hour at the end on half sensible conditions. So, obviously, we had to look at through different compounds and got a little bit more testing done. So, the thing is, when it's like that, you're either doing longish runs or you're doing some shorter runs to have a look at some performance, let's say. So I think that we opted to throw a few sets of tyres on at the end and see how the car went. Yeah, and that went okay. So yeah, we've got still work to do. Where that was the most we get, I suppose, out of a short, limited program at the end in dry conditions.
Okay, but some people are sort of questioning whether Red Bull are actually as strong as they were last year. Can you tell us either way whether you are or aren't?
Oh, look, we've seen some very quick lap times from other cars, you know, so yeah, we've got work to do. We're working as hard as we can. We know that there's some very, very strong teams out there, and yeah, we focus as much as we can on ourselves, but you want to also understand sometimes what the other guys are doing and having a little look at where you might compare. And in general, we know there's some fast cars out there, and we're not on our own, that's for sure, out front.
So you're not telling us that we'll turn up in Melbourne or Malaysia and you'll just blow the field away?
Of course not. No, I think that that hasn't happened for a long time, especially the last few years. Obviously, once the season gets going, we have a bit of a trend. But I think early in the season, you know, i.e. when we get going, some of the bigger and more organised, stronger teams, let's say, might, you know, eventually the arm wrestle gets in your favour. But at the start of the season, you know, it's anyone's game, and, you know, there's a lot of strong cars that start the season off well.
Thanks very much, Mark.
Thank you.
We know that every season's important in F1. A lot of people are saying that potentially this could be Mark Webber's last. He's 36 now. He's the oldest driver in the field, with Pedro de la Rosa going off to become the reserve driver here at Ferrari. There was a time, wasn't there, in 2010, probably between May and August, where he was the best driver in the world. He won 4 races out of 8, and the guy was just blowing everyone away. And then Sebastian Vettel came along. Where do you think Mark Webber's chances stand this year?
Well, I think he's starting afresh. I think he's in a situation, seems to be in a good place. He seems to be sort of happy when you talk to him there. You can sort of see it in his eyes. So that's a good start for him. He knows what Sebastian can do. This is one moment that you don't want to sort of see, but it's, you know, this is what, you know, though, isn't it, goes on in this testing time, and he's very aware of what is needed to be able to take this championship to his teammate, but of course everybody else. He's more than capable to be able to do that.
He got a little bit of criticism, didn't he, as an internal magazine from Helmut Marko, just saying about his consistency, and that's never been his strong point. But, you know, Mark Webber, as we know him, being Mark Webber, I suppose he's the kind of guy that would take that, internalise it, and then come out and make him, well, put his money where his mouth is, shall we say.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Dr. Marko has always been quite critical of Mark in many ways. He's always been positive for Sebastian, and I can see why. That's where the whole Red Bull situation has always been for Sebastian, as far as I see it. But Mark is a tough old Aussie, and he will really go into this physically prepared, and I think mentally prepared. It's something that he would just blow that away, and hopefully he can start strong. That's what he's got to do. That's what he will want to do, and I think it's a good start for him at the moment.
Okay. What about Lewis Hamilton as well? We were saying that he got most of his running in this afternoon, most of his decent running, his long run. About 3:10, something like that. He's really stacking up the laps, and it'll be a useful afternoon for him.
Yeah, I think so, and I think he'd be sort of, relatively happy. I think he still knows there's a lot of work that they need to do at Mercedes. We have seen and we have heard him say that the car needs to be a lot better, especially on those longer runs, and we're in very cool conditions, which is going to help this tyre situation. And we know Lewis will wring everything out of that car because that's what he does best. It's doing those long race distances consistently that we need to see him do.
Mixed feelings from Lewis Hamilton so far. That's his opinion on this Mercedes. The strength, of course, is the engine, as it always is with Mercedes. The weakness, perhaps the downforce. That's something they'll be working on. We've got a few minutes until we go off air. We're going to take another short break. On the other side of that, we'll get the thoughts of Ted as he sums up the day. To start raining again from about 3 o'clock this afternoon. We didn't get it though. That's the Ferrari motorhome behind. Felipe Massa just been giving his post-test press conference. Security is tight there. We're going to go down the other end of the paddock though. Ted is standing by.
Hello, Simon. Yes, come to Barcelona. They said it would be warm. It's absolutely freezing. Just going to run you through some other little things on some cars that I noticed while we just wait for Max Chilton, who's going to come out and have a quick word with us. Sauber have got a new side pod. Now, you know the Sauber side pod, the entrances were pretty small anyway. What they've done is actually shrunken the downstream part of the side pod so that the exhaust element actually sort of bulges out. We'll show you some pictures hopefully a little later in the week, but I thought it was interesting. That's really the only major, we've had the only major upgrade. We've seen some monkey seats come and go. It's off the Red Bull, for example. There's a curved one, monkey seat on the Lotus, the little winglet. But otherwise, I think we're going to have to wait and see until the last 2 days of this test, as we said earlier in the program, before we really see the upgrades come. And talking of coming down, here is the rain. Just to go through some other things, I thought it was interesting and impressive, actually, that Adrian Sutil's neck held up, considering that he hasn't been in the car for quite a long time. Look, here's a nice young chap with thin legs coming towards us and funky shoes and orange laces. I know it's cold. I know it's cold. Just a quick one. We haven't got long left on the programme. How did today go for you? Cold? Did you feel it in the car?
Yeah, it was a little brisk this morning in the car, but it was a really good day for us as a team. We did, I think it was 78 laps, which is the most we've done in this pre-season testing. So it's a really good day, and it was nice to get some more experience in the rain.
Yeah. How did you find that in the rain, driving an F1 car?
Yeah, no, it takes you a few laps, but it's amazing how much grip they really do have when you get the tyre temps up. So we were quite quick on the extremes. Took a little while with the inters to get used to it, and then we're quick again. So it was a really good day. Okay, and what do you still want to learn from this test?
We'd like to set up work?
Yeah, we've got plenty more setup work to do. We've got a new aero package to put on, and we'd quite like to do a race run. So yeah, plenty more to do.
Okay, brilliant. Well, it is raining, so we'll let you go. We don't want that beautiful hair to get any wetter. Just tell you quickly about Lotus. They were running their drag reduction device, the passive F duct. And they were running it at the end of the session, which I thought was interesting. James Allison, their technical director, saying yesterday that it's a tantalising benefit if we can actually get that right. So they really, really want to try and get it right. I don't think they'll have it right and ready for the first race in Melbourne, but they will have it sooner. Right, plenty more, but we'll have that on the notebook later on Sky Sports F1 HD.
Yeah, rain might ruin Max Chilton's hair. No chance of that with Ted. It's like wire wool, isn't it? There we are. Right, we promised you we might hear from Lewis Hamilton. He's been speaking to Rachel Brooks.
Lewis, how would you sum up your day today? Managed to get a race simulation in, but in difficult conditions.
Has been difficult conditions today, but it dried up later on, and we got some good running. It was a good race simulation, and just really happy that we're making progress moving forward. The guys are doing a fantastic job back at the factory, so I'm really happy.
You talked about wanting to get more downforce from the car. Have they been able to achieve that yet?
We'll find out in the next couple of days. I'm pretty sure they have. So, as I said, I'm really happy that they're making steps forward. I think either tomorrow or Saturday, we'll put some upgrades on the car, as everyone will, and really looking forward to seeing that. That's always like the most exciting couple of days of the pre-season testing, because that's when we get the full package.
And just finally, can you see where you are in the field yet at the moment? They say that everyone brings their specs from Melbourne here, maybe a few, well, some packages to arrive later in the weekend, but have you got an idea of roughly where you are in the field?
I honestly don't, because just everyone's just on different fuel loads. You know, sometimes we're on 100 kilos, sometimes we're on 150 kilos, sometimes 110, sometimes 70, so you never know what other people are doing, and so we just have to really wait and see.
The smile is there. He seems pretty relaxed. Do you think he thinks he's got a realistic chance of doing anything this year?
I think there will be occasions we will see the true Lewis Hamilton coming out. I don't think we're going to see it consistently over the year, just because of these different temperatures and different races we're going to go to, and that tyre issue I think that they do have.
Yeah, absolutely. Lewis Hamilton is back in the car on Saturday. And just a reminder that we are back tomorrow. Coverage from all 4 days, afternoon sessions. We get in on air 2 o'clock your time, which is 3 o'clock over here. Rain is forecast. We are hoping that it holds off. It's just beginning to spit again now, but we'll go in, get ourselves a hot chocolate, and we'll see you tomorrow. Mark Webber, gone quickest on this opening day of testing. Bye-bye.
Green Sally up, green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground. Green Sally up, green Sally down. Last done start, gotta tell the ground.